Hello everyone, welcome to today's class of chemical coordination and integration. In this chapter, in the previous video, we have learnt about the three things, that was your hypothalamus, pituitary gland and pineal gland. Today we are going to read a very important gland, endocrine gland, that is the thyroid gland. Now, thyroid gland is situated in our neck region. It is situated in our neck region like a butterfly, and it is connected by means of a connective tissue or connective rather cells or tissues, which is called as your isthmus. And it is made up of stroma and it is made up of follicular cells, and it secretes two main hormones under the influence of the thyroid stimulating hormone secreted by that of your anterior pituitary, and it is secreting the two hormones. The first one is called as your tetraiodothyronine, or it is popularly known as your T4 or thyroxine, as we call it as. I have not written here, but you can write it. This is also known as your thyroxine. So, thyroxine or tetraiodothyronine or T4 is the first hormone, and the next one is your triiodothyronine. Now, these are the follicular cells which are secreting these two hormones. Now, the thyroxine hormone works in presence of a mineral which is very important for its synthesis, that is your iodine. The deficiency of iodine, we have learnt it from our junior class, that iodine's deficiency leads to a problem which is called as your goiter. Okay, so goiter is the problem which is associated with the deficiency of iodine, resulting into less secretion of the thyroxine hormone. And of course, the triiodothyronine is also one of the hormones secreted by the thyroid gland, which is regulating various functions in our body. Now, we have to understand what are the functions which are under the guidance or influence of the hormones secreted by that of the thyroid gland. See students, when the thyroid gland is secreting less hormone, we call that problem to be that of your hypothyroidism. Okay, hypothyroidism. Hypo means less and hyper means more. Okay, so hyperthyroidism is the problem as a result of excess secretion of the hormones secreted by that of the thyroid gland. Now, hypothyroidism, if it happens during especially the time when a lady is pregnant, that may lead to the birth of the baby who are mentally retarded. The mental growth of that person does not take place. Our physical growth, mental growth is also under the influence of the thyroid gland, the hormones secreted by that of the thyroid gland. And if it happens to the smaller children, whose mother during the time of pregnancy was suffering from that of hypothyroidism, then they suffer from a problem which is called as your cretinism. Okay, and goiter, as I have told you, that is because of the deficiency of iodine in the blood, and that results into less secretion of the hormones secreted by the thyroid gland, resulting into your hypothyroidism. And hyperthyroidism, what is the symptoms is that restlessness, insomnia. Okay, the person is too much, as because the thyroid gland secretes the hormones which controls our basal metabolic rate. So, the basal metabolic rate becomes very high if a person is suffering from this abnormality of over secretion of the hormones secreted by the thyroid gland, and we call it as your hyperthyroidism. One of the disease because of excess secretion of the thyroxine hormone is called as your exothermic goiter. Exothermic goiter, and this is a normal simple goiter. We call it simple goiter because of deficiency of iodine, and another one is called as your exothermic goiter. Exothermic goiter. Now, exothermic goiter is because of the excess secretion of the thyroxine hormone. So, what will happen? The abnormalities will be protruding eyes. The eyeballs will be protruding out. Okay, the neck will be swollen, as it happens in case of simple goiter also. Because of overwork of the thyroid gland, the neck becomes swollen. So, in case of exothermic goiter also, the necks become swollen, the eyeballs are protruding out, the basal metabolism rate increases, and these persons look so abnormal, so serious, so grave. That's why sometimes this exophthalmic goiter is also known as your Graves' disease. Okay, so this one is also sometimes known as your Graves' disease. Graves' disease, okay, because the person is so serious, so grave, so that's why it's Graves' disease. So these are the abnormalities. And hypothyroidism, as I was talking about, because of less secretion of the hormone in the body, especially in case of females, they show irregular menstrual cycles. So that is also one of the problem because of the less secretion of the thyroid gland. So thyroid gland is a very important gland of our body, controlling various things, our mental development as well as that of our physical development. Now we will be moving on to the next gland, which is called as your parathyroid gland. But before that, we have to know one more hormone secreted by that of our thyroid gland, which is called as your calcitonin or thyrocalcitonin. Okay, this is called as your calcitonin. So let me write over here. So the another hormone is called as your calcitonin or thyrocalcitonin. Okay, it is commonly known as calcitonin, but in books you will find it is known as your thyrocalcitonin, as because it is secreted from that of the thyroid gland. So it is that's why it is called as your thyrocalcitonin. And what is the function of this thyrocalcitonin? The thyrocalcitonin decreases the amount of calcium ion in the blood. Now how will it do so? It will be doing so by that is your depositing the calcium on the bones and on the teeth. So that the secretion of calcitonin will result into decrease in the level of your calcium ions in the blood. Whereas if you talk about the another hormone which is secreted by the next gland, which just now I was about to teach you, which is called as your parathyroid gland. Parathyroid gland. Now parathyroid gland, it is, where is it located? First you should know it. I told you in the neck region, like a butterfly, the thyroid gland is there on the posterior part. So the front is the thyroid gland. So if you see the back of the thyroid gland, then there are two pairs of this parathyroid gland located, and the function is, you know, antagonistic in terms of the calcitonin or the thyrocalcitonin. The hormone secreted by the parathyroid gland is known as your parathormone or parathyroid hormone. Okay, so it is commonly known as your parathyroid hormone, or it is also known as your parath hormone. Okay, PTH, parath hormone or your parathyroid hormone. Now what does it do? It is antagonistic with respect to the calcitonin or thyrocalcitonin. Calcitonin, it decreases the level of calcium in the blood and it increases the level of calcium in the blood. So see, calcitonin is doing what? It is actually resulting into the taking up of the calcium ions from the blood and depositing it into the bones and the teeth of our body. So when it is done, so what will happen? Definitely the level of calcium will go decrease in the blood, isn't it? But that is not good for any kind of, you know, the normal physiological functioning of the body, because we know where there are various ions which are required in our body, free flow of the ions, like that of the sodium, like that of the potassium, like that of your chlorine, like that of your calcium. So if this ions are not regulated properly, the normal functioning of the body will be hampered. So what will happen is that when the level of calcium falls in the blood, during that time the parathyroid hormone or the parath hormone, which is released by the parathyroid gland, it will now take up, or it will rather dissolve the calcium which is, you know, attached to that of the bones and that of your teeth, and it will result into liberation of those ions into the blood. So it is actually regulating, both of them are regulating the level of calcium in the blood, which is very important for the normal physiological functioning of the organism. So these are the two, you can say, the endocrine glands as well as the hormones secreted by them and how they are functioning in our body to make the functioning of the body as the normal one. Okay, now after this there is another that is endocrine gland, which is called as your thymus gland. Okay, so let us write about this thymus gland. Thymus gland. Now thymus gland, now this gland is present just below our sternum. See, this is our chest cavity. So in the chest cavity there is a broad bone. Just behind the broad bone is present this thymus gland. Okay, now this thymus gland is important and it secretes a hormone. The name of that hormone is called as your thymosin. Thymosin. It releases the hormone thymosin, and the function of the thymosin is what? The thymosin helps in the maturation of the lymphocyte cells. Those cells which will be undergoing maturation in presence of thymosin in the thymus gland, they will be called as your T lymphocytes, and they are associated with the cell mediated immunity of our body. So you can see that the immune system of our body is actually guided by this thymosin secreted by that of the thymus gland. And it is very important. Initially when it is present after the birth, it is present in 10 grams or like that, and gradually it grows up to 30 to 40 grams in case of adults. But by the time adulthood is reached, gradually degeneration of the thymus gland takes place. So what will happen now? If the degeneration of the thymus gland will take place, definitely the maturation of the T lymphocytes will be hindered, isn't it? They will minimize in our body. So as a result, we will be more prone to the various kinds of external pathogens entering into our body. That is why you will see that the old people, they suffer from simple diseases faster compared to that of the younger people. The reason is because in them the immune system is not as strong. Why is the immune system not strong? Because cell mediated immunity, which is done by the help of the T lymphocytes, that is not getting maturation because of the degeneration of the thymus gland in case of the adults. Okay, so this is the thymus gland, the hormone secreted by the thymus gland, and its functioning in our body. So we have discussed most of the glands, right from pituitary gland, now the thyroid gland, parathyroid gland, thymus gland. Now the next gland to be discussed is called as your adrenal gland. Now adrenal gland, where is it present? Adrenal gland is present at the top of the kidney. Perhaps you remember the shape of the kidney. The shape of the kidney is somewhat like this. So at the top of the kidney, like this, a cap-like structure. Now this one is your adrenal gland. Okay, adrenal gland. This is your adrenal gland. Okay, fine. Now this adrenal gland, if you make a cross section, we will find that it is having outer cortex and inner medulla. Now the medulla of the adrenal gland, this, suppose if this one be considered to be the medulla. Okay, let me shade it. Okay, so let me shade this. This is the medulla, and this outer one, this one is the cortex. Okay, fine. So the medulla secretes two hormones, epinephrine and norepinephrine, or we call it commonly as adrenaline and noradrenaline, and both of them are called the emergency hormones because these are released when the body faces some kind of emergency situations. That is it is also sometimes known as gland of fright or gland of flight. That means either you move away, fly away, that means you run away from the situation, or you are afraid because of that the secretions are secreted in our body. Especially suppose you are stuck in between fire. Suddenly you step upon just you are about to step upon a snake or any kind of sometimes some wild animal chases you. So this kind of emergency situation, when it happens, then this hormone secreted by the adrenal medulla, that is adrenaline, that is hormone, is helping you to tackle those emergency situations. Your heartbeat will be faster, breathing rate will be faster, you will be feeling thirsty. Okay, and all these things will happen. All that is your body hairs, you will see that they are getting erectile. Okay, so all those things will happen, and when the situation is over, then there is actually here there is nervous system also playing some role, which is called as your sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system, along with adrenaline and noradrenaline. So it is helping to normalize the body. Breathing rate will become gradually normal, your heartbeat will become normal, and you will feel a sort of kind of cool sensation that yes, now the emergency is gone because of the secretion of the other hormone and the parasympathetic nervous system. So that are the two hormones emergency hormones secreted by the medulla portion of the adrenal gland, present over the two kidneys, okay, like two caps. And the cortex, The cortex has various parts, of course. The cortex is secreting the corticoids. Okay, these corticoids are of various types: mineralocorticoids or glucocorticoids and sex corticoids. Now, glucocorticoids, as the name suggests, gluco word has come from glucose. So, the metabolism of glucose is under the control of those glucocorticoids. If this is secreted in less glucocorticoids, then this results into a problem which is called as your Addison's disease. Okay, that is called as your Addison's disease because of less secretion of glucocorticoids. Mineralocorticoids are those which are associated with the mineral balance. One of such mineralocorticoids is found in our kidney, aldosterone. Aldosterone helps in regulating the balance between sodium. It helps in the reabsorption of the sodium. So, aldosterone is the hormone which is coming under the mineralocorticoids, which regulates the mineral balance in our body. And sex corticoids are the one which along with that of course the sex hormones, both male and female sex hormones, that is in case of male testosterone and in case of female that is estrogen and progesterone. What it helps is that it helps in other sexual secondary sexual characteristics in an organism. If it is not secreted in sufficient quantity, that may result into some kind of abnormality, especially with that of the irregular menstruation and all. And of course body hairs will be more if it is secreted in excess quantity. If it is secreted in excess quantity in case of female sex corticoids, that may result into formation of facial hair. They will have beard, they will have moustache, they will have hoarse voice like that of the boys. So all these kinds of abnormality can happen because of excess secretion of sex corticoids from that of the cortex region of the adrenal gland. So that is about the adrenal gland and the problem which is associated with that of the adrenal gland and the things which we have studied. And next we will be taking upon the mixed glands in our next class. And that's all for today's class. I hope you have understood what is being discussed in today's class.